My name is Alea Eastman, a senior at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. I work across the country to help amplify the voices of young people, and particularly young people in communities of color whose day-to-day experience of violence is always ignored, mischaracterized, marginalized, and minimized by the press, the public, and the corporate gun lobby. 102, February 14th, fourth period, Holocaust history, my last period of the day. The classroom door was locked today because of the new procedures. In the beginning of the period, we began presenting our hate projects that we've been working on. Nicholas Dworet was in my group. Little did I know, 79 minutes from then, he'd be saving my life. 2:21. We heard a round of extremely loud pops. We had no idea what it was or where it was coming from. The class was in complete silence, and we all stared at each other in immediate fear. Within seconds, we heard it again. We all immediately ran. The class split in half. Half of my class ran to the safe spot, which was out of the view of the window that was in the classroom door. The other half was diagonally across from the window, in complete view. I was not in the safe spot. As I sat down, I remember telling myself if I were to get shot anywhere, I wouldn't make it. I needed to be behind something. The only thing in front of me was Nicholas Dworet. Helena Ramsey began passing books down so we can shield ourselves from bullets, but yet everyone thought it was a drill. 2:22. I clenched the book from Helena and then looked down at my phone to call my mother. As I raised my finger to hit the green call button, the loud pops were now in my class. I thought to myself, what kind of senior prank is this? As I began to see red on the floor, I assumed it was a paintball gun. I looked up and saw Helena Ramsey slumped over with her back against the wall. I began smelling and inhaling the smoke and gunpowder. Then Nicholas Dworet rapidly fell over in front of me. I followed every movement of his body. When he fell over, I fell over with him. I then placed myself underneath his lifeless body, placing his arm across my body and my head underneath his back. Bullets continued flying. I kept my eyes on the ground so I knew when to hold my breath and close my eyes when the shooter got near. I began talking to God. I told God that I knew I was going to die. I asked him, please make it fast. I didn't want to feel anything. I asked for the bullet to go through my head so I wouldn't endure any pain. I laid there for about 30 seconds, still protected by his lifeless body, waiting for the shooter to move on to the next class. I immediately called my mom. I told her my last goodbyes. I told her how much I loved her. I apologized for all the things I might have done in my lifetime to upset her, and then the phone hung up. We all ran out, passing bodies in the hallway on the way out. When I got outside, I was completely disoriented. The police then said, he's still on the loose, guys, and we need you to work with us. I was petrified. 4 o'clock. I finally found my friend and her mother. They noticed the unimaginable. They called the police over, and they began picking body matter from my hair. I completely broke down. The police took me back on campus to gather photos of me and collect my bloody dress. They placed me in a chemical for chemical and biological exposure, then recorded my statement. 9:30, at the Marriott Hotel, I was finally allowed to physically touch my mother. It was absolutely horrific, so real and mind-numbing. I would never forget what I saw, what I did, and what I experienced that day. I will never forget Nicholas Dworet, who even in death helped protect and save my life. Days later, we received news that my mother would be having a miscarriage because of what the shock of the shooting did to her body. The shooting didn't only impact me on February 14th, it impacts me every day of my life. I've also lost a family member to gun violence. I lost my uncle Patrick Edwards in the streets of Brooklyn, New York. He was shot in the back. The bullet then pierced his heart. He was only 18 with his whole life ahead of him. And unfortunately, that is the same story of thousands of Black and brown families across the country. Gun violence disproportionately impacts Black and brown youth, whether that being police brutality, homicides, or domestic violence. As for people of color, law enforcement is the shooter in some cases. History of bias, brutality, and racism in so many communities. Like many of my brothers and sisters of color, I am not comforted by deputies with handguns, let alone assault rifles. I am very concerned since learning Brett Kavanaugh's views on guns and how he would strike down any assault weapons ban. Too many dangerous and prohibited people continue to be able to readily access and use dangerous weapons to terrorize Americans at home, work, church, school, and on our streets and anywhere we go on our day-to-day life. As you consider what to do and who to appoint to make us safer from gun violence, remember my story. Remember my classmates who died. Remember the victims of color that face mass shootings every day. Remember all victims of gun violence from Parkland, Brooklyn, Miami, Milwaukee, Oakland, and all over America. As you make your final decision, Think about it as if you had to justify and defend your choice to those who we lost to gun violence. If Kavanaugh doesn't have the decency to shake hands with the father of a victim, he definitely won't have the decency to make life-changing decisions that affect real people. The youth is urging our society to recognize the depth and seriousness of the gun epidemic in America. We are all here with an urgent message for you. If the youth across the country can fight to eradicate gun violence, why can't judges, lawmakers, and Donald Trump understand that young people are dying from this senseless gun violence? Thank you.